He delights the inhabitants of Braja and wanders in the forest along the banks of river Yamuna. And also this is a note here. Srila Prabhupada was very fond of this song and sang it before his lectures. In Allahabad and Gorakhpur, Srila Prabhupada fell into a trance after singing the first two lines. And after some time he came back into external consciousness and said, now just chant Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada said that this song is a picture of Vrindavan. Everything is there. Srimati Radharani, Vrindavan, Govardhana, Yashoda, and all the cowherd boys. So that's the Jai Radha Madhava that Srila Prabhupada liked to chant. And it's by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he's talking about Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur today because it was his disappearance on June 25th. So we'll honor them. If you have your phones with you, make sure they're on silent. Yep. So please put your phones on silent. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and whenever we chant whatever prayers we have, they come in an authorized way. So similarly, we have the songs of the Vaishnava Acharyas. So following in the footsteps of a parampara system or disciplic succession, whatever we do, we want to do it in a manner which our predecessor teachers did. Right? That is our sampradaya. Sampradaya means to give, and we want to be able to follow in accordance with what our predecessor acharyas gave us. Right? Otherwise, we are not propagating the disciplic succession that the Lord has given us. So why is that important? Because we want to maintain a tradition that's been timeless and it's always been there. And we don't want to concoct a tradition, concoct a practice. So that's why the Sanatan Dharma or Krishna consciousness is known as Sanatan, meaning that it's everlasting. Did not start 5 years ago or 500 years ago, or 1,000 years ago, or 2,000 years ago, or 10,000 years ago. It's always been existing. This knowledge has always been existing. So therefore, in order to preserve that knowledge, we must learn the knowledge, and then we must also pass down the knowledge. So we must learn it ourselves, and then pass it on to others. So that is the parampara system. And part of that is, whatever songs we sing, they must be coming in an authorized way. It's not that we sing any sort of song, concoct any sort of mantra, and it comes out of its, we just make it up and we chant it. Right? So the songs that we sing, like Jairada Mahatava, the Guru Ashtakam, the Tulsi Puja, they all come from different Puranas, or they come from different Vaishnava teachers. So we must follow accordingly. Right? So, songs like Hey Krishna Govinda Hare Murari He Nata Narayana Vasudeva. But that's not according to Sampradaya. Right? That is not according to Sampradaya, so we don't sing those songs. Raghupati Raga Varajaram Patita Pavana Sitaram does not come in a Sampradaya. So therefore these are also these folk songs. So we don't sing those. So if you study the Kirtan standards by Jayadvaita Swami, you would know that these are all not bona fide. Whereas Hare Krishna Mahamantra is bona fide. Jai Radha Madhava is bona fide because it comes by real self-realized souls like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur. They're all giving us bona fide mantras. Similarly, like Gayatri Mantra, those of us who are Brahmanically initiated, you may be chanting the Gayatri Mantra, but that also comes in disciplic succession. So therefore, we must not concoct things. So today we are talking about the Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because as part of our Vaishnava tradition, we observe the appearance days of the Lord and the different forms of the Lord, and then also the appearance and disappearance day of the Vaishnava Acharyas. So for us, it's Vishnu or Krishna and the Vaishnavas, those who are devoted to Vishnu. So those are the days we honor, right? Because we are very much singularly focused on Vishnu worship. So we have Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who in this book by Rup Vilas Prabhu, who's a proper disciple, he wrote a biography, and there are the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, who are the followers of Chaitanya, who is an incarnation of Krishna. But Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, from our vantage point, he's known as the grandfather of the Krishna consciousness movement, right? And he was for the most of his life, he was a grihastha. He was a grihastha acharya. Oftentimes, we try to practice, spiritual practice at home or living a householder life. But sometimes it can be challenging because there's so many brahmacharis and sannyasis who are the preachers in ISKCON, right? And they may be able to enlighten us and bring us out of our, day-to-day, material influences that we have. But, realizing from a householder devotee is a bit different, because they are able to let us know about how to practice Krishna consciousness while being householders. Sometimes when sannyasis who were brahmacharis and became sannyasis after, they talk about ideal householder life. And it's like, well, they have never been householders. So how can they talk about ideal householder life? So sometimes I kind of chuckle when I see some titles like that. Srila Prabhupada was different. He went through householder life. So he has realized experience and he was very practical in that matter. One sort of practice is Srila Prabhupada. Now, we don't know much about Srila Prabhupada's householder life because his life as an acharya and sannyasi was well documented, right? But we understand that Srila Prabhupada would when it came to chanting, he was very practical in the sense that you would chant your japa in the morning or sometimes during the day. So similarly, we as householders have to take the same inspiration that we have to always make sure that we're always chanting. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was one such personality, and I talked about the importance of the songs of Vaishnava Acharyas. And then in 1896, Bhaktivinoda Thakur sent Lord Chaitanya and his life precepts to McGill University in Montreal. And that was back in 1896. So it was back, he wanted to essentially give the message of Lord Chaitanya to Canadians, especially French Canadians. And Srila Prabhupada wrote this book, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And within the Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, which is Teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Incarnation of Krishna, he says, dedicated to the sacred service of Srila Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who initiated the teachings of Lord Chaitanya in the Western world, McGill University, Canada, in 1896, the year of my birth, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So in 1896, more than a century ago, that we have Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who initiated this Krishna consciousness outreach preaching in the Western countries, right? So he did that in 1896. So therefore, those of you who want to learn more about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada made it very accessible, not a very large book, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. This is a very, very foundational book that Srila Prabhupada said that if you want to share Krishna consciousness, we must know Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Nectar of Devotion, Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Instruction. Then we'll be able to share Krishna consciousness as a practitioner. So Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, that's what Srila Prabhupada wrote in honor of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So today what I'm going to do is showcase some of the life of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, some of his life and qualities. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as I mentioned, he's known as a Grihastha Acharya from our perspective, and he's on the altar and with the Guru Parampara lineage. He's in the lineage of line of masters of Bhakti Yoga. And we take inspiration from him because he gave us in very practical means Krishna consciousness. And I'll show you some examples. So it was a desire, Prabhupada saying, he's giving a lecture here. It was a desire of Bhaktivinoda Thakur to spread his life and precepts of Lord Chaitanya in the Western countries. So with this in view of publishing the book Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his life and precepts, he sent copies to various university libraries. And one of the copies was found in McGill University in Montreal after 72 years. This book was found in the library by one of our students, and he brought it to me. From a materialistic point of view, I was born in a different family, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur belonged to a different family. And my spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, happened to be the fifth son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Although at home, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was actually the spiritual master of my spiritual master, still he recommended Bhaktivinoda Thakur when he was a young man, about 18 years old, that you go to Gaur Kishore Das Babaji and become initiated by him. So here we see that Srila Prabhupada is recounting the life of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and says that he wants to make sure that the teachings of Lord Chaitanya go to the Western countries. So he sent it to multiple libraries. And one of those libraries, 72 years later, Srila Prabhupada's disciple found in McGill University. So it's very cool. So here you see that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is, practically a world away, right? All the way across the world. In 1896, he's sharing this message. Similarly, we must also inculcate the teachings of Krishna consciousness and share it with others. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur's fifth son is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is the spiritual masters of our Acharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So, from this we understand that, Srila Prabhupada is recounting that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, could have initiated a son, but instead he told him to go to Gaur Kishore Das Babaji and take initiation from him. So, very nice move. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement, which Bhaktivinoda desired in 1896, and somehow or other coincidentally, I do not know what his desire, I was also born in that year. And by Krishna's desire, I came to the disciplic succession. Saraswati Thakur asked me to go to the Western countries and preach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. The spiritual line of understanding is different from the materialistic view. The idea is that I was born in a different family and Guru Maharaja was born in a different family. Bhaktivinoda at that time was a magistrate, a government servant. By Lord Chaitanya's desire, we have come in the same line of disciplic succession. What was taught by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in 1896, that these teachings of Lord Chaitanya should be spread in the Western countries. By chance or coincidence, it is now happening. We should take it for granted that whatever is happening at the present moment, by my humble endeavor, is all by the grace of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So here we see Srila Prabhupada is very humble. He's saying that somehow or the other, I was born in the same year as the disappearance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, a time when the Lord Chaitanya's life and precepts were sent to McGill University. Somehow or the other, I came into this disciplic succession, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur desired that in the Western countries, this Krishna consciousness movement be spread. And that's what's unique about ISKCON, is it's bringing the traditional sampradaya into different parts of the world in a package in which locally it can be practiced very well. So you can see there's this harmony with the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. We take the sampradaya, which is very traditional, and packages it up so that it can be spread and established in different countries around the world. So therefore, for example, if you look at these books, these books have been translated into multiple different languages. If you look at Bhagavad Gita as it is, it's been translated into 80 different languages. And it's the most widely distributed Bhagavad Gita in the whole world. Last year, we did approximately 3 million Bhagavad Gitas around the world. So, Krishna. So, 3 million Bhagavad Gitas, we want to go 5 million in next year, right? So we have different goals to spread and share this message. And only the International Society of Krishna Consciousness is doing this welfare work of giving knowledge to others. So here we see that by Bhaktivinoda Thakur's desire, Srila Prabhupada also wanted to spread Lord Chaitanya's teachings, and somehow or the other, it was happening that way. Then learning a little bit more about Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that practically this Chaitanya movement was, of course, Lord Chaitanya inaugurated this movement 500 years ago. After that, many pseudo-Chaitanyites depreciated the whole thing. But the Chaitanya movement in its pure form as it is was restarted by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We should take it that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the origin of the Krishna consciousness movement in its pure form. So I talked about sampradaya, the need to preserve tradition. Why? Because over time tradition gets lost. Krishna comes again because tradition gets lost, right? So Krishna consciousness with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, over time, over the years, it was getting lost. Where the process of Krishna consciousness of pure love for Krishna was being taken as something cheap, right? Someone will just, tears are rolling off their eyes, they'll roll in the sand, like this, they'll show some moments of ecstasy. But these public shows of display are known as prakritya sahajya. That means we're just emotional sentiments. But what is the depth behind all of this? Where is the purity? Right? Purity is the force. One must be pure in order to attain to have association with the supreme pure, which is Krishna. So therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur came and revived that pure Krishna consciousness, the philosophical basis through which we act. Lord Chaitanya was also, while he exhibited all these deep devotional symptoms, he was also deeply philosophical, right? So similarly, if we kind of abandon the philosophy and then just act on our own whims, that is not according to the tradition. So you must embrace the philosophy and the practical manifestation of it. So here, Srila Prabhupada says that Bhaktivinoda Thakur revived that. And as I mentioned, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a householder. So I'll give a glimpse of his life a little bit. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote almost 100 books. Just imagine, he was a very responsible officer, a magistrate. A magistrate is like a head judge of a district. And he was a grihastha. He had many children. Altogether, he had 10 children. And he had to take care of children. The office of magistrate and extra religious work. He was made superintendent of the temple of Jagannath because the government knew that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a highly advanced religious person. Wherever there were some religious questions, he was consulted. In spite of all his responsibilities as an officer or as a family man, with so many children, he executed his family life very nicely, or else he could not have produced a child such as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. At the same time, he served the Supreme Lord in so many ways. That is the beauty. He has written so many books in spite of cumbersome duties. That is the beauty of his life. He would come home from the office in the evening, take his meals, and go to bed. That was his program. And he'd sleep from 8 to 12 at night, 4 hours. Then he would get up and write books until morning. That was his program. So here we see that it's very inspirational that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, even though having a high position, oftentimes people who live in the greater Toronto area say that they are busy with their work and they don't have any time, and they're busy with family life, they're busy with work life, and they're not able to have any time for spiritual life. But here we see Bhaktivinoda Thakur, despite having 10 children, despite being a magistrate, which means you're dealing with a lot of pressure and different decisions that need to be made, different work influences, he would simplify his life outside of his work so that he would be able to focus on Krishna and also sharing Krishna consciousness by writing so many books. Writing 100 books is very difficult, especially if you want to write books on spiritual subject matter. It's not something that can easily be done, right? It only comes by somebody who's very empowered. So therefore, he was our grihastha inspiration. And even if you see, typically you don't see sannyasis offer obeisances to householders, right? Usually it's the other way around. Householders offer obeisances to sannyasis. But Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, being a Vaishnava Acharya, he's on the altar, and all the sannyasis in ISKCON, when they come to the altar, they offer obeisances unto him, right? So because he was an Acharya. So therefore, we understand that one can be a householder and still practice Krishna consciousness. In fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that in Kali Yuga, one can attain perfection through being householder life. Majority will be householder life. So that's what's mentioned here. And it goes on to say that in this way, he wrote hundreds of books, some published and some in the course of being published. All this became possible because he was a sincere, faithful servant. To write so many books with so many responsibility for an ordinary magistrate is not possible. But because he was sincere, he got the strength from the Supreme Lord. One does not need to seek strength separate from the Supreme Lord. But if you are sincere, the Supreme will give you sufficient strength. Actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur brought my Guru Maharaja to this world, his son. He prayed to Lord Chaitanya that your preaching and teachings have been so much depreciated, it is not in my power to correct them. He prayed to Lord Chaitanya. After his prayer, Lord Chaitanya sent my Guru Maharaja as his son, and he took up the matter very seriously. So here we see that he propagated the teachings by his son, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who continued these teachings. So we see that the parampara tradition is you're given some responsibilities to maintain the tradition, and you use your God-given skills and talents to serve Krishna. Each one of us has unique skills and talents bestowed upon us by the Lord Himself. So we should seek to it that how can we use our skills, whether it's a language skill, or whether it's public speaking, or whether it is some sort of special service skills, how can we use that in channeling towards the Lord, whether it's hospitality, cooking, engaging with people. We can use all of this in the Lord's service. And we just have to know what is the sampradaya, what is the tradition, and how do we practice it, and how do we share the tradition. Because sharing is also part of the tradition. So here we see that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he tried to revive the Krishna consciousness movement in its pure form. And then also, he wanted to set forth some of the teachings to be established and written down. So his son, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was able to dedicate his life as a Naishtika brahmachari and sannyasi. So he never got married. He continued with establishing Krishna consciousness with the Gaudiya Math, the Gaudiya monastery. So that's what he had dedicated to his whole life, but that comes from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So what we'll do is we'll go into the life of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his daily schedule. I'm always very curious as to what people's schedules are, because it's always kind of a telling sign as to like how do they live their life. So let's look at Bhaktivinoda Thakur's schedule. So Lalita Prasad Thakur, who is his son, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's son, one of his sons, in his notes on his father's life, describes the Thakura's daily life while he was staying in Jagannath Puri. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a magistrate, he was a judge in this district and make powerful decisions. So let's hear about his life. He was never idle, being always engaged in the service of the Lord. Beginning 7:30 and 8 p.m., he would go to bed. This is in the evening. Then he would rise before 10 p.m. So basically, he would go to sleep at 7:30 p.m. He would rise at 10 p.m., light his oil lamp, and write books until 4 a.m. Then he would rest again for a maximum of half an hour. At 4:30 a.m., he would wash his hands and face, sit down, and chant on his beads. He never showed his beads to anyone, but would chant on them constantly as time permitted. At 7 a.m., he answered all correspondence. So this is all his work. So he's answering his work correspondence at 7 a.m. At 7:30, he read various religious and philosophical works. At 8:30 a.m., he received visitors, if any, or else continued to read until 9:30. At that time, he would walk back and forth on the veranda of his house, contemplating different religious questions and solving them in his mind. Sometimes he would solve them aloud as if preaching to some unseen guest. He would take rest briefly between 9:30 a.m. and 9:45 a.m., then take bath and breakfast, which usually consisted of a half quart of milk, 2 chapatis and some fruit. At 9:55 a.m., the Thakura would don his uniform and leave for court in his carriage. As a magistrate, he wore coat and pants. On his neck were 6 strands of large tulsi beads. He was resolute in his court decisions and would decide a case immediately, not tolerating any humbug. He did his business and left. He shaved his head monthly and never cared for what anyone thought of it. The lawyers and Englishmen were astounded by Thakura's capacity for work. At 10 a.m. the court began. He would hear between 30 and 50 cases per day. yet he finished by 1 p.m. What took other magistrate 1/2 hour, he finished in 5 minutes. He took another 2 minutes to write the judgment in detail. Some of his British superiors became envious and tried to discourage him, but he was not affected. At 1 p.m., he went home, refreshed himself, and then returned to work from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Every evening after his court duties, Bhaktivinoda Thakur would translate some Sanskrit religious work into Bengali by dictating it to a secretary. Then there was an evening bath and meal consisting of little rice, 2 chapatis, another half quart of milk. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur worked with a pocket watch, so everything he did was on schedule. Despite his heavy domestic and official responsibilities, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's every moment was embellished with an intense desire to render service to the Lord. So here we see Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's schedule, where he would translate books from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., take a nap, and then he would wake up, and then he would wash his face, brush his teeth, and chant the holy name, japa. Till 7 to 7:30 he will answer work correspondences. Then 7:30 he would engage in some more reading or meeting with guests, right? Pacing up and down the veranda, thinking about different religious works. Then he would begin his work at 10 to 1, going through the court, going through all these cases. 1 to 2 would be a lunch and a break, and then 2 to 5 again, he would be doing intense work. So from this we understand that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is very efficient. So similarly, we should also be very efficient when it comes to our work responsibilities, so that we can spend time for Krishna. So if you become efficient and focused and able to, be, these days they use the word, high performing teams, right? So at work there's high performing teams, meaning that you have a team of, employees or colleagues who work together in such a high manner that they get a lot of work done in a short amount of time. So similarly, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the original efficient, person who would get his work done in a very efficient way, and then, do his personal chanting, and then dedicate so much of his time for writing books, so that eventually people may have access to them. So that is the life of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and we definitely take inspiration from him on these sort of aspects where he lived his life to serve others. Otherwise, what's the purpose of living, right? If you're not giving Krishna consciousness, if you're not practicing a spiritual practice, then we're just paying bills, and our work becomes worship. Work is worship. You spend so much time at work, and then you forget about Krishna. There's no time and opportunity to hear and share about Krishna consciousness. So then it becomes very challenging. So therefore, taking inspiration from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we should make it a life mission to share Krishna consciousness. Very simple. And the simplest way is doing it is, just like we have teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, all these wonderful literatures, at least we should show appreciation to our predecessor teachers by at least getting these books and keeping them at home. That is step number 1. Just like, if somebody is a fan of some fictitious character like Superman or Batman, they'll go and get all these different paraphernalia, costumes and, cars and all these things. But all these are based on a fictitious character. What to speak of someone who's the supreme absolute truth, Krishna. So therefore, our proposition is that we are inculcated with so many different influences that bring us down in the material world. So let us at least once in our life invest in our spiritual life, maybe this lifetime. We have taken so many lifetimes. We don't know how many, this is our millionth lifetime, billionth lifetime. We just don't know, we don't remember. Right? Krishna remembers, but we don't. right? So that's our fallacy. So similarly, we should have a full set of Srila Prabhupada's books at home. So at least once in our life, we spend money on so many different things, buying so many things, using different services. But at least once we should invest in having a full set of Prabhupada's books, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And once we have them at home, we should meditate upon them by reading them on a daily basis. This is how we can really teach people in our family, in our neighbors or co-colleagues or whoever, people on the street, about Krishna. And we can really share and follow in the footsteps of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Oftentimes people come to the temple asking for blessings. I want blessings for this. I want to have a nice car. I want to have a nice home. But these are all temporary things. Why ask for something temporary? Why don't you ask something permanent? So what is permanent? Krishna is permanent. We as a Jivatma are permanent. And our relationship, that is also permanent. So why don't we ask for bhakti? Oh Lord, please engage me in your service. Because Krishna already provides even for the birds and the beasts. The birds are getting their food, It's not like they're congregating and praying to Krishna to get their food. By nature's arrangement, the birds get it. So similarly, we should ask for something higher. Coming to Krishna to ask for, I want this in my bank balance, I want this car, I want this home. All this will go away one day. So we are asking Krishna for just temporary things. Krishna will give us what is in accordance with our karma. We don't have to over-endeavor or meditate on these materialistic things. They will come. So you do your hard work, you do your duty as a professional, but don't be obsessed with the fruits of your labor. And in turn, when we come to Krishna, we want to serve Krishna for the sake of just serving Krishna. Pure service. Not a transactional service. That, hey Krishna, I'll come to the temple, you do this for me. Then it becomes kind of a business. You're doing just some sort of business with Krishna. And Krishna is the richest person, so why do we want to do such sort of petty business? Right? So, following the footsteps, we encourage you to take a full Bhagavatam set home, take Bhagavad Gita home, and read them on a daily basis. You can spend 10, 15, 20 minutes a day. Keep a goal. My goal is to read 15 minutes or 10 pages a day. This way, as time goes by, we become more and more enlightened on how to practice Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, what happens? World is full of this influence, this YouTube influence, this Hollywood influence, that Instagram influence. This is what's happening in society. We get influenced by so many things. This is what the breaking news is. It brings us down, and it's very unnatural for us to be exposed to what's happening halfway across the world and feel like it's going to affect us today and right now in my situation. What's affecting us right now is the material energy. It's coming on, it's on our heads. And how do we get free from it? By chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Take a little Krishna Prasadam, focus on the books, focus on sharing the knowledge, and in this way you can live a very disciplined, regulated life where you can progress ahead in making spiritual progress while not abandoning your material duties as you have, your temporary duties you have as people. And the last point I wanted to mention was, we may think that, okay, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is no longer in our vision. He departed this world in 1896. But Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also was a poet, and he mentioned that he reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die, when thou art living still in sound. The Vaishnavas die to live and living try, to spread a holy life around. I'll repeat that again. He reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die, when thou art living still in sound. The Vaishnavas die to live and living try, to spread a holy life around. So this is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So when we observe the appearance and disappearance days of our acharyas, they do not disappear because they're always present in spiritual sound, their spiritual instructions. And their whole life, imagine this, their whole life is dedicated towards spreading a spiritual holy life around. So that we, sitting in Scarborough, get benefit of the spiritual tradition. So, in honor of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in honor of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in honor of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, we must take to the spiritual life in a very serious way, chant the holy name, have Krishna Prasad, mold our schedule in such a way that we are efficient with our work and we focus on our responsibilities at home as well as Krishna consciousness and sharing Krishna consciousness. Having a full set of Prabhupada's books at our home. If we don't have them, we have so many boxes just waiting. We are blessed to have so many different varieties of books just for your benefit. Otherwise, so many temples, so many different institutions, they don't have books. They don't have the same literatures, they don't have the same literary tradition that we do. Right? So we have a great literary tradition and we encourage everybody to participate by taking advantage of access to the ancient Vaishnava Acharya's teachings. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So take time for any questions or reflections from today. So questions or reflections from today. Hare Krishna.
Can you, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Can you explain this Bhaktivinoda Thakur's the thing you say in the book?
Poem?
Yeah, poem. Can you explain the
Sure.
your own way and then?
Yeah, so the question is, can we explain the 4-line poem?
Yes.
So the first line is, he reasons in who tells that Vaishnavas die. Okay, so this is very poetic sort of language, right? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying that people who say, oh, Vaishnavas die, right? Those people who say Vaishnavas are die, they think that their reasoning is wrong. Reasoning. So people think that, oh, Vaishnava passed away, oh, he's dead. Those people who say that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying that the reasoning is wrong. Okay. Second line, when thou art living still in sound. So he's saying that when those Vaishnavas are still living, they still live.
Even though they left.
Even though they have left, they're still living because they're through sound, the instructions, the Vani. The instructions, they always live. The Srila Prabhupada, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna, because we have the instructions, they're always present. Third line, the Vaishnavas die to live and living try. So the Vaishnavas, their whole life, they are basically, the Vaishnavas, their whole life is dedicated towards spreading a holy life around. Which means that from their supposed appearance and disappearance, their whole life, including towards the end, is meant for spreading Krishna consciousness. All Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls a holy life or a spiritual life. So what they do is, the Vaishnavas still are present in the spiritual sound, so they're always existing. And while they were present in manifested in this world, the appearance to disappearance, their whole life is dedicated towards sharing. When we think about Haridas Thakur, Nityananda Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the 6 Goswamis, right? Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, what do they have in common? Sharing Krishna consciousness, giving Krishna. Jare dekho tare kho Krishna Upadesh. Wherever you go, you try and give the Upadesh, the instructions of Krishna. Talk of Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Karo Krishna, Shiksha. So, speak about Krishna, praise Krishna, worship Krishna, and instruct everyone else in the science of Krishna. Karo Krishna, Shiksha, to give the instruction. So that's what this means. It's basically a person who thinks that a Vaishnava dies, their logic is not correct, illogic.
Mm.
Then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that those Vaishnavas are always present in sound,
So,
right? So we may not have association of Lochan Das Thakur or Bhaktivinoda Thakur or all these Vaishnavas, but we have access to them through sound. We chant their bhajans, we read their teachings, right? Then, those Vaishnavas, they dedicate their whole life towards sharing.
Yeah.
Sharing what? A holy life around. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very poetic, so he was not fanatical, person. He was very, very philosophically inclined, and he was very, very deep in his teachings. So we must appreciate Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Any other questions? Yeah.
Can you explain me about the title of the book? That's very
Okay, so the title of the book is called Seventh Goswami. So there are 6 Goswamis. There's 6 in number, 6 chief followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But then their particular responsibility was to share the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, disseminate the teachings. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught, Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, but they wrote down in scribes to share these teachings and books. But then what happened? The Krishna consciousness movement, as Srila Prabhupada said, got lost. People just took it as some sort of sentiment, sentimentally practicing Krishna consciousness without any depth. So then Bhaktivinoda Thakur came to sort of revive the Krishna consciousness movement, and therefore, since he wrote so many works to revive the Krishna consciousness movement, just like the Goswamis went to Vrindavan and the Radha Kund, Sham Kund, they founded all these places, right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very much was wanted to make sure that these are established, the Goswami temples and so forth. So similarly, Bhaktivinoda Thakur did that, and therefore they gave him the title, the 7th Goswami. So he has a book title called 7th Goswami. Okay, any other questions? So I encourage you, if you don't have the songs of the Vaishnava Acharyas, we have plenty of copies of this. But they come with word-for-word translations of all the songs. You can be at home and sing amongst your family and sing songs of the Vaishnava Acharya so that they always keep on living. Second is Srila Prabhupada sent these books, especially Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, to McGill University in Montreal in 1896. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada, following the footsteps, has written so many voluminous books. So we encourage you that after the program, you can speak with me after, and we can chat about how you can have a nice set of books at home so that you can read them and develop a spiritual program, just like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur did in his life, keeping work, family life, and spiritual life in a proper balance together. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we can get that book to
Yeah, you can get Vaishnava Acharya's book. We have plenty of copies.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How much, Lakshmi?
I'm not sure, but
35.
35. Yeah. So it's kind of a glossy print.
Is a meaning also there?
Meanings there, yeah. So
Because
word for word meanings there.
Yeah.
This way we are always absorbed in the positive spiritual sound vibration of Krishna consciousness.
So Prabhu, I'm just going to add a little bit more if you please don't mind.
Yeah.
So
Is it
these are
English?
very, 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 very astounding books, I should say. I was pretty impressed with this. It's got 4 volumes.
Yeah.
And you know what? When I read that Krishna book, even I get a little overwhelmed with the language and hard to understand concepts.
Yeah.
This one is child-friendly language, right? And it's got lots of beautiful pictures. And guess what? 4 volumes, four what is it? They're Chintamanis. 4 volumes are just $50, right? And it comes in a nice package, and you cannot ask for more. Like how Narad Muni caught Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruv Maharaj at the young age. This is the age we start our kids at, not when they are our age. Manda Buddhi. Thank you.
Very well.
Okay, so we'll begin with the Arti soon, but the Bhagavatam set, we have page number 3 from the songbook, if you would like to follow along. Samsara dava naganita loka Pranaya karunya Samsara dava naganita loka Pranaya karunya Raptasya kalyana gonadavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Mahaprabhu ki Nitya Gita